shut them down. Shut the enemy down. Triple down. 2 for 1. Double down. Hunters like you blaze a path for the rest of us.
Ladies and gents, my name is Xander, aka Diaslayers, and in this video, we're gonna find out and discuss this brand spanking new auto rifle from Iron Banner, and it's called the Forward Path. Not only are you going to figure out number 1, how to get your hands on this thing, number 2, how this thing functions and how you should use it, and number 3, the god roll perks that you should be looking for to absolutely annihilate, decimate, and obliterate every guardian in your path, and number 4, some test cases like optimal effective range, the weapon's bloom, its hipfire reticle, all that kind of jazz to really find out if this thing is actually worth the grind to get and actually determine if it's the best or one of the worst auto rifles in the entire game. Now, if you're like me, you probably thought to yourself, okay, so how can I get my hands on one of these ASAP? That's actually quite easy, is all you simply gotta do is just go to Lord Saladin, pick up the quest that he then gives you, and the only stat to that quest is simply getting 25 kills with auto rifles and 25 kills with sidearms in Iron Banner. As soon as you happen to do that and complete this one step, bada bing bada boom, you guys got your hands on not just the Forward Path, but also the brand new sidearm called the Fool's Remedy. Hopefully RNG is going to be on your side and you happen to get that god roll right off the bat. But of course, the usual thing occurred and RNG wasn't on my side, so I had to go back to Lord Saladin and turn in a ton of tokens, and you guys can do the exact same thing by simply turning in Iron Banner tokens to Lord Salabar, and hopefully you're going to get that fantastic and oh so glorious god roll. To find out what that roll just might be, the only thing left to do is just to simply sit back, relax, maybe grab some Skittles, and then visit the notification button, and let's jump right into the video. It's at this point in time that I would normally like to discuss the weapon's TTK stats, but what I think is actually even more vital and pivotal for you to understand first is how this weapon functions. Now some of you might be thinking, okay, well Xander, come on bro, this is just a freaking auto rifle. All you gotta do is hold on the trigger and poof, enemy guardians are gonna be truly incinerated. And to you I say, normally that's correct, but when you look at the weapon as a whole, its red dot, in contrast to the sight as a whole, is moving all over the place. I mean, this thing's looking like the Energizer Bunny. It's going up, down, left, right, everywhere in between, almost as if it has a sugar high. And so I'm like, okay, well, what's really going on here? And so upon first inspection, I thought, well, that's gonna make this thing miss just a ton of shots. But in reality, it's not. And the reason as to why this is because the sight's actually doing the work for you in conjunction with the weapon's aim assist and also its overall recoil control. Now don't worry, we're going to cover all this stuff more in depth throughout the entire video, but just simply understand that even though the sight is going bonkers, it's landing a lot of its crits, and this is very good news for you, for me, and for everybody else, and is also one of the reasons as to why I think that this could just be one of the best autos in the entire game. Now it's time for some facts as to why this thing is actually the way that it is. And to really kick things off, what I want to do is I want to show you the roll that I happen to have, and you guys can see that roll right there on screen. It's got swashbuckler, dynamic sway reduction, accurized rounds, red dot micro, a stability masterwork, and a counterbalance mod. I'm sure that some of you are curious as to why this might be a god roll, so let me explain. With dynamic sway reduction, that one perk alone is not only going to increase the weapon's overall stability the longer that it's fired, but it's also then going to increase the weapon's accuracy, thus reducing the bloom. When you couple this with accurized rounds and red dot micro, that's then going to increase the weapon's overall effective range by plus 19, and then when you incorporate the plus 2 zoom that this thing also has from red dot micro, oh yeah baby, now we're cooking with some oh so crispy, spicy, and juicy flavors, and then when we combine this all together with swashbuckler, then we really got some great lethality and things are really coming into place. Even without swashbuckler, this thing has a phenomenal TTK for not just its body but also for its optimal, and to be more exact, this thing's then going to need 13 body shots to then get a body shot TTK at 1.2 seconds. If you happen to land all critical headshots, it only needs 8 crits and then can get an optimal TTK of 0.7 seconds. Yes, you heard me right as I said 0.7 seconds. But things get even better, as when you happen to have swashbuckler times 2, this weapon's optimal TTK goes down to 0.6 seconds. If that wasn't enough to pique your interest, then when you happen to have swashbuckler times 5, the weapon's optimal TTK is 0.5 seconds, and that's a half a second flat. Just so that we're all on the exact same page, you guys can see all those TTK sets that I just said right there on screen, with the weapon's base TTK on the left, swashbuckler times 2 in the center, and swashbuckler times 5 on the right hand side. please, oh please, oh please keep in mind that all these computations were done in a frame-by-frame analysis. And not just this, they were also done with a Guardian at tier 10 or 10 resilience, aka 201 points of health. The only other thing that I want to add here is that the reason why I didn't include Swashbuckler times 1 or times 3 or times 4 is because those things right there aren't actually going to increase the weapon's TTK more so than Swashbuckler times 2 or Swashbuckler times 5, and rather it's just simply going to make those things easier to get as you happen to stack more and more kills with Swashbuckler. Now when we get into the weapon's other perks, don't worry my friends, we're going to get into all those in just a few minutes. What you're then going to realize is that this thing not only has the chance to roll with Swashbuckler, but it can also roll with multi-kill clip. When the forward path happens to have Swashbuckler times 1, meaning only 1 kill, it can then get an optimal TTK at 0.6 seconds. When you happen to get Swashbuckler times 3 procced, that's when you get an even faster TTK at once again 0.5 seconds, aka half a second flat. Just like from before, I want to put all those computations that I've just said right there on screen. And similarly, we had the weapon with its base TTK stats on the left, multi-kill clip times 1 in the center, and multi-kill clip times 3 on the right hand side. Just for the same reasons that I did not include Swashbuckler times 1, times 3, and times 4, it's the exact same logic and reasoning as to why I didn't include multi-kill clip times 2. And so in having said all that stuff, the main differences between Swashbuckler and multi-kill clip is that if you want to get that easier TTK at 0.6 seconds, multi-kill clip is going to be the best way to go, as all you simply need to do is just get 1 kill and reload and get that 0.6 optimal TTK. However, if you want to get that 0.5 second TTK, then Swashbuckler is definitely going to be the fastest to do so, because all you simply need is 1 melee kill, and then just like that, you got that fantastic, outstanding, and also marvelous optimal time to kill to truly melt Guardians and make them a little bit salty. Now that we've gotten all that TTK jazz straightened out, the next thing that I want to cover is actually what makes this thing so unique, and that is one of 2 perks, the first one being Iron Gaze. As you can see from right there on screen, Iron Gaze massively improves the weapon target acquisition at the cost of weapon range, and to be more precise, you're then going to lose negative 40 range for a plus 20 aim assist. Now I'll be perfectly honest, on console specifically, this is an absolutely terrible fluff cabbage strat shenanigans perk, and you don't want that, I don't want that, nobody wants that, because range is just simply that important in the vast majority of cases. But the second perk, known as Iron Grip, actually might be more circumstantial and actually quite beneficial depending upon the playstyle and the role that you happen to get. As we inspect the perk, Iron Grip massively improves weapon stability at the cost of reload speed. To be more exact, you're then going to gain plus 20 stability at the cost of negative 40 reload speed. Before, I really couldn't quite see it this thing actually being a viable perk, but when I did this in my God Roll guide to this actual weapon, many of you said that Iron Grip might be viable in some circumstances because there's actually a ton of reload perks that can actually compensate for that low reload speed, and also some stability perks that can couple with this phenomenally, and to you I say, you were 110% right. Iron Grip definitely has a place in this sandbox on specifically this forward path. And now some of you might be asking yourselves the question, okay, well what kind of combinations of perks just might actually beat this? To you I say, that is once again a phenomenal question. And to really put things into perspective, I'm going to recommend some marvelous perks here that might just do that, and we can see all those right there on screen. In this very first column, here we happen to find only short zoom scopes, and I'll come back to these in just a couple of seconds. But as far as that second column of perks goes, here we happen to have accurized rounds, tactical mag, steady rounds, as well as flared magwell. Ensuing this is a third and fourth column of perks, and as far as that third column goes, here we're only going to find 2 perks, and that is Feeding Frenzy along with Dynamic Sway Reduction, and finally our fourth column of perks to then be Iron Grip, Swashbuckler, Multi-Kill Clip, Eye of the Storm, and Tap the Trigger. If you're looking for that oh so phenomenal lethality roll, then maybe something that you might want to try and get is either Swashbuckler or Multi-Kill Clip accompanied with Feeding Frenzy. On the other hand, some of you might want that consistency based roll, and here I'd recommend something like say Eye of the Storm or Tap the Trigger in conjunction with Dynamic Sway Reduction. If neither of those 2 rolls is really your cup of tea, then maybe you want to try and get something else that's going to be a combination of those 2 things, aka lethality and consistency, and this might include something like say Swashbuckler and Dynamic Sway in conjunction with Flare Magwell and the Red Dot Microsight, or maybe even something slightly different like say Multi-Kill Clip, Dynamic Sway, Steady Rounds, and also that after the Hitmark IS sight. If it wasn't already obvious enough, this forward path definitely has a role that's going to fit your playstyle, whether that be aggressive, passive, or somewhere in between. But the only other thing that I want to mention here is that it does happen to have a very unique role, and that is then going to be Iron Grip in conjunction with Feeding Frenzy. Remember, Iron Grip is going to decrease that reload speed drastically, but it's then going to increase the stability stat. And so to counteract this, maybe you want to have something that's then going to increase that reload stat, and that is of course Feeding Frenzy. If you can get that kind of roll, then do not count that roll out by any means. And if you're still undecided as to whether or not that might be a good roll or not, then maybe something that might be able to help you out a little bit more so into making that decision is the weapons-based stats. And we can see all of those right there on screen. I won't lie to you, Diaslayers, there is not a single base stat here that is despicable, and rather they're all outstanding. And specifically, looking at the weapons base range at 50, but with my roll of plus 19, that's then going to be at 69 out of 100. And with every other stat here above 50 and some, that's just amazing. With my stability stat at 58, the weapon's base aim assistance at 71, and the recoil direction at a base of 60, plus the counterbalance mod plus 15, then gain 75. That's then going to be an outstanding overall shot rhythm, and you're going to land a ton of those shots. And remember what I said from earlier, this thing is very, very unique in the sense that how you're going to use this thing is trusting the sight. The sight's going to go all over the place, up, down, left, right, you name it, it's going to go there. But as long as you trust the sight, it's then going to have the aim assistance to then kick in, and when you incorporate this with potentially something like, say, dynamic sway, accuracy is then going to be increased, and that then in turn means to you, bloom is then reduced, increasing the overall consistency of landing more critical headshots. Taking one teeny tiny step back, I want you to recall that I said that I was going to come back to the weapon sights, and here I'm going to do that right now. And the reason being is because that red dot micro sight is not only going to increase the weapon's overall range by plus 9, but something that just might be more important than that is the increase in zoom by plus 2. Now, if you haven't seen what I claim to be the best PvP high impact pulse rifle video in the entire game, I'm going to link that in the top right hand corner of your screen this very second, and spoiler alert, that's the Cold Denial. I also compare that to something like, say, the broadsword, and the reason why these two were so different in terms of their effective ranges was because of their difference in zoom. For both the broadsword and the Cold Denial, their zoom difference was only by 4, but that then increased their overall effective range by a difference of plus 8 or plus 9 if I recall correctly. The same thing is also true for this forward path, by just simply having that increase in plus 2 via that red dot micro sight, it makes a colossal difference. How much of a difference, you ask? Great question, Diaslayers, because we're going to go into a private match right now and test this weapon's optimal effective range this very second. As I take out my Darcy, I then measure 30 meters, and as we expect, we then happen to see the damage output at 26 per crit. Going back just a smidge to only 31 meters, we then see a little bit of a decrease in critical damage output to be at 25 per crit. This then means to you that with accurized rounds and the red dot micro sight, the weapon's base range is increased by plus 19, but more importantly than this is the zoom factor by plus 2 via red dot micro sight, and that then in turn is giving the weapon's optimal effective range at 30 meters. I guarantee you that if I didn't have that red dot micro sight, or even something like, say, the red dot MOA sight, this simply wouldn't be the case, because both those two sights that I just mentioned are then going to increase the weapon's overall zoom factors. If I was using a hit mark sight, this simply wouldn't be the case, and the weapon's optimal effective range might be something like, say, 27 or 26 meters, and although I didn't quite test this, it's going to be somewhere around that ballpark. Now, I'm sure that many of you are also aware that zoom and range are also then going to have this marvelous correlation with one another next in terms of bullet magnetism. And to test this out, we're going to test this out right now at 10 and 20 meters to really see the results. At 10 meters on the right side and the top side of the head, I was truly astounded and I was like, what the heck? This is complete garbage. I'm seeing that this thing's barely able to hit shots in both of these two perspectives. And so I was like, okay, well, is this going to get any better at 20 meters? The answer to this is a resounding yes. And not just on the right side of the head, but on the top side of the head, I was able to hit far, far, far outside the hitboxes of what I would normally do. And even so much to the point that I was still actually able to land shots inside the health bar above the head and on the right hand side of the shoulder, a little bit outside of that on the right hand side of the head. The key takeaway from that test case right there is that if you want to use this thing in close proximity, you have got to land your shots, as there is absolutely zero margin of error. But as soon as you happen to go back a little bit further than that, something like, say, 20, 25 meters, and maybe even 30 meters, here we happen to see the weapon's bullet magnetism really taken into account. And what is this due to? The weapon and how the sight is meant to be trusted, as well as having dynamic sway reduction, decreasing the weapon's overall bloom via increasing the weapon's accuracy. Speaking of dynamic sway reduction, there's actually one more test case that I want to show you that's going to really emphasize the importance of that one particular perk. And to see this, we're going to hit fire against this wall, and as we do so, it's going all over the place as expected, but as we slow this down and zoom in just a teeny tiny bit more, what you're then going to realize is that the reticle itself is actually not moving at all after those first 5 or 6 bullets. Just look at that. The hipfire reticle is consistent, and it's staying the same size throughout the entire test, once again after those 5 or 6 bullets. And what does this do to? Dynamic sway reduction. Keep in mind that the test case that you guys just saw for hip firing is also going to be consistent while aiming down sights, at least in terms of the weapon's overall accuracy and decreasing the bloom, even though you can't see it. As you all just saw via the ADS test, the weapon's overall recoil is pretty much going a little bit to the left and then corrects itself and going more vertical. And this then also means to you that the longer that you hold down this weapon, the more accurate and more consistent that's going to become. Personally, this is why I think that having on swashbuckler and dynamic sway reduction is probably one of the best, if not the best godable combination of perks that you can possibly get on this thing. But hey, that's just me, so by all means, let me know what you guys think about all this stuff down in the comment section below and what kind of rules that you might be looking for instead. No matter what kind of rules that you guys happen to get, I want to give you one kind little reminder here, and that is to trust the sight and to trust the weapon in landing its shots. This weapon's sight is going to be like the Energizer Bunny in conjunction while being zapped by lightning, all combined to one. And so with that kind of mentality, trust the weapon to land its shots and trust the sight to do just that in conjunction with the weapon's perks. If you can do that, then I got a hunch that you're going to make this thing one of the best instead of one of the worst auto rifles in the entire game. But regardless of whatever you guys say, you always know that I'm going to respect your opinions, and that is something that I can guarantee. Lastly, be sure to watch the newest, check the latest, and share a comment like on social media because you are the greatest. That's pretty much all I've got for you as of right now, Diaslayers. And as always, GG TNT.